everybody. This is Carol Maletta. Welcome to the Parenting 411 podcast, where we share information parents need from sources they can trust. Welcome to today's episode, where we are joined by the inspiring Mary Anne Clyde. She's an award-winning therapist, best-selling author, and a passionate advocate for empowering women. With a career spanning over 35 years and a family of 8 children, Mary Anne has navigated the complexities of parenting while pursuing her own dreams. She's the founder of Isn't She Amazing?, a community dedicated to helping women over 50 live with intention and impact. So today, Mary Anne shares her insights on how moms can rediscover themselves and unlock their full potential beyond parenting and marriage. So I can't wait to dive into this empowering conversation that I believe will help you shine your brightest. So welcome, Mary Anne. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, Carol, thank you for having me. What fun to be here.
Yes.
And what necessary topics.
Oh, I could not agree with you more. So why don't we just start off with you telling us about Isn't She Amazing?, how you got started, and how your work helps women to tap into their power.
Well, I've retired twice. And so Isn't She Amazing is a reiteration of my life. And after I retired for the second time, and I was talking to a friend and we were talking about what women need when they retire. Mm-hmm. And that woman was my partner for the first year. And we both agreed that there's a lot of similar things that women go through at midlife. And, now I am 70, so I'm past the 50 range that I start with. Mm-hmm. But, when you're 50, you've got another 50 years left. When you're 70, I could still have another 30 years left, or more. Mm-hmm. And so often we're talked into that our life is over. We're really not much use for anything anymore. It's, the kids are grown, that, you're retired from your job. But the fact of the matter is we're wiser. We have better networks. We're been wealthier. We have more time. We have dreams that we've never fulfilled. And that's what I encourage women. We've got, I believe it's an obligation and a responsibility to live our life to the fullest, because we've got all this stuff inside of us that the world needs to know. There's a big world out there.
And we have the resources too to live healthier lives so that we can, it's interesting that you talk about that. Every morning that I wake up, I'm always thank God for giving me another day, because you must think I have something wonderful to do. I still have something to offer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, we put ourselves down, a lot of times, just because it's sort of funny, or we feel like we're getting old, or, it's just my head. I can't remember anything anymore. And we really badmouth ourselves over and over when we are rich, like you said, in resources. We are rich in networks. I mean, we know more people. We just know stuff.
Exactly. And, that negative self-talk that you were mentioning there, people don't understand that what you tell your brain, it will manifest it. It's like, okay, if you say you're slow, or you say you can't remember anything and you're not useful, well, we're going to manifest that. And your body listens too.
That's right. Because the word is just so powerful. Whatever comes out of our mouth is more powerful than we ever know. And also as a parent, and that's so true. So often we let it fly when without really thinking about what we're saying. And we need to remember that our words are powerful and valuable and necessary. And we often withhold the good and spit out the bad, or, and maybe you don't want to call it good and bad, but positive and negative. Anyway, so yeah. So my purpose as we get older is to remind women that they can easily in their lives become supernovas, which, and a supernova star what happens is it starts to collapse and implode, and gravity kicks in. What, who doesn't know that happens at 50 or so?
Sure.
And when that happens, that star implodes and then explodes into its brightest life for the rest of its life. And
Mm-hmm.
to a star, that can maybe be 100,000 years or more. To
Mm-hmm.
us, it could be, an extra 10. But
Sure.
we're here to shine. And then, the other thing that inspires me about supernovas is that when they explode, they release all the life-giving elements
Mm-hmm.
that we're created from. The
Sure.
oxygen that we breathe, the iron in our blood, the calcium in our bones, all that stuff. It's kind of this great big cycle. And
Mm-hmm.
and it's and there's so much that we have to give. And our
Right.
knowledge is one of those valuable things that we give, and our
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you start your work with women who are 50 and many of them moms, of course. I'm also wondering from your experience as a mom, for mothers who are listening that are not yet 50, what can they do now to prepare to really find their identity beyond their roles as caregivers and partners? And what could they start doing now so that they'll be prepared for that, right, as you said, that supernova moment
Yeah.
in their life beyond, like I said, after they've raised their children?
I wrote this book in 2013 called Peaceful Parenting, and I started it on 10 essential principles.
Mm-hmm.
And so those principles are just as important for young moms as they are for women at
Mm-hmm.
50 and women at 80 and 100. It's the very first principle is to connect with your creator, connect with something bigger than you. Know that your identity is not just what you do every day or how much money you have or what house you live in or how obedient your kids are. Your identity is something that's imparted to you from
Mm-hmm.
from all of creation.
Mm-hmm.
Your true identity is love and joy and peace,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom and creativity. That's who we are. Most times, if you ask a mom, who are you? It'll be, well, I'm Greg and Heather's mom, or and it's like, okay, yes, you're related to those little ones. And but the idea is that's not your identity. Your identity is you are a solid, grounded, intelligent genius that
Mm-hmm.
has her own personality and her own desires and her own life. Sometimes as a young mom, really doesn't feel like I got my own life. It's like
Right, right.
my life belongs to everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
they start going through changes and your kids grow and your parents age and then you're kind of in that sandwich generation, which creates a bit of a crisis in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so I would really recommend, I even recommend this for kids. I mean, even my grandchildren, I
Mm-hmm.
teach them the phrase that every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. We thank the creator for everything we have. I mean, it's just, we have to nurture the good stuff within us. Think
Mm-hmm.
about the good stuff within us. Everybody else is going to criticize you no matter what you do, especially as a parent.
Oh, goodness, yes.
Who knows that parents have opinions,
Mm-hmm.
and most of those opinions are about what you do, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But you
Mm-hmm.
know how people deflect or project their own issues on other people, and we
Mm-hmm.
take those to heart. So I would say some of the advice I would give young moms or moms that are coming close to empty nest syndrome and things like that is to know that you are amazing. I mean, that's why I named my company. Isn't she amazing? It's because
Mm-hmm.
every now and then we accomplish something or we notice something about ourselves that says, I am amazing. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I felt when I started training for my first marathon, my only marathon yet. It was that I'm not a runner, and I just ran 5 miles without stopping. And then I
Wow.
finished the marathon, and I am not a runner. It's just,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it gives this sense of jubilation that I really am pretty darn cool. I
Mm-hmm.
really am pretty amazing. And,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be my desire for every woman in the world to know genuinely,
Mm-hmm.
not just as a buzzword like, oh yeah, I'm amazing, but to know how
Mm-hmm.
amazing you are, Carol, how amazing I am, how
Mm-hmm.
amazing everyone who's listening to your podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's shocking how amazing we are, and that's not a joke. That's true.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so what would you say then to help shift to that mindset of I
Mhm.
am amazing for the mothers out there listening? What are some practices or steps that they can take to shift that mindset so that they can be resilient in the midst of the parenting challenges they face, as well as
Mhm.
the societal expectations that you alluded to?
Great question, because so often we focus, especially with our kids, we focus
Hmm.
on what they're doing wrong because we
Hmm.
feel that that indicates whether we're a good parent or not. Just like
Hmm.
grades in school, if you get a D or a C, well, that's terrible. Well, is it? Isn't a
Hmm.
grade supposed to just measure what you know at that moment in your time? The idea that we punish for bad grades and yes, you want to see them grow, but we should reward for growth. We
Hmm.
should catch them doing something right. Our
Hmm.
spouses too.
Yes.
I mean, and ourselves. It's just don't always look. We're always making mistakes. Everybody does it every single day.
Hmm.
We can focus on what our child is doing well
Hmm.
and what our spouse does that we appreciate and
Hmm.
who we are, our
Hmm.
strength, our creativity, our ability to juggle a bazillion things during the day
Hmm.
and still be so amazing. It's remarkable that we concentrate on so much negative. And I really hate to see people do that to themselves because
Hmm.
self-care is so important for mothers. You
Yes.
know, have you ever heard the saying, if mama ain't happy, how does that end?
Nobody's happy.
Ain't happy? Ain't nobody happy.
Uh-huh.
So it's the same thing with the oxygen mask in the airplane.
Hmm.
Put your own on first.
Hmm.
Then you can breathe to help your kids, your spouse, ours, and that's the last thing most mothers do, I think.
Hmm.
Don't have
Hmm.
time to work out. I don't have time to pay attention to my diet. I don't have time to look in the mirror every morning and say, "You're amazing," But make time.
Right.
Because that's the fuel that keeps you vital and
Hmm.
beautiful and engaged.
Hmm. Hmm. Now, I know at Isn't She Amazing, you are very focused on building community. It's just so important to have a supportive network. And so, what would you say to mothers in terms of how they can create communities that uplift and empower them where they are?
It is so important because I don't know how many of your listeners are like I am. I am an introvert. I
Hmm.
like to be home. I like to do things myself because I'm just more efficient, and that creates an island, kind
Yes.
of makes you that an island all to yourself. And the fact is, it's fine to be an introvert. It's fine to like being home. But at the same time, and I even notice this more and more as I'm growing older, is that I need people around me who are
Hmm.
uplifting because maybe I don't always feel uplifted, but I
Hmm.
need somebody that's going to remind me that I offer something in their life and I mean something to them and that I can
Hmm.
do anything I want to do. Because
Hmm.
we all have those valleys
Hmm.
where we feel like, oh, nothing's ever working out for me. I don't care how accomplished you are and so forth. Those moments come.
Hmm.
And And so what I do is I make a point of making a like a lunch date or a coffee date or a dinner date, or we'll and talk to my husband about let's call another couple and go out to eat. And it's not an obligation thing, but it's a choosing who you like to be with.
Okay.
I love to be with my kids. I love to be with my grandchildren. They lift me up.
Hmm.
A lot of times they exhaust me too, but that's just part of the deal. But I like to meet with women who are positive. I don't like to get together with people who tell me how awful their life is all the time and how much everything hurts.
Hmm.
And the older we get, there's a lot of that going on sometimes. So I like to talk to them about their accomplishments and their dreams because that feels expansive to me. And I
Hmm.
believe, we're in this spiral universe and there's a constant pull upward,
Hmm.
expanding, growing, learning, doing, loving. And
Hmm.
that feels good. The depression, the feeling bad about ourselves, the anger, the unforgiveness, that's low level energy. And that just, I mean, even talking about it makes me feel like something's tugging at my feet to pull me back down.
Hmm.
So it's those kinds of things that I think are important to remember. Focus on the positive and be grateful. I know people who say, well, I don't want to increase anymore. I don't want more money or a bigger house or a
Hmm.
boat or whatever it is, because I should just be grateful for what I have. And I'm
Hmm.
going, yeah, be grateful for what you have, but nothing wrong with wanting more
Hmm.
because we live in an infinite universe. There is no pie that's being cut up
Right.
in pieces saying, I have my slice of the pie and mine's a little bigger than yours.
Right. And the
That's
thing about it too is you show gratitude for what you have. You pursue more goals, but when you have more, you can do more for others too.
yeah, who is it but people with money that build hospitals and schools and feed hungry children?
Hmm.
You are such an inspirational speaker. I've heard you speak a few times too, and I know that you are an inspiration to other women all the time. And you're teaching
Thank
them
you.
how awesome they are and how they can make difference in the world. And I love to listen to you. So can
Thank
I ask you, what are your go-tos like when you tell people to feel better, make themselves lift themselves up rather than suck themselves down? Are there specific things you tell them to?
I absolutely recommend that they recite affirmations to themselves because
Mm.
of what we talked about earlier, that your mind and your body are definitely listening, but also their track record. Like really tap into the things that you've done in your life. Like I remember when I came home with my children. I have twin sons. They're now 25, but I was like so overwhelmed initially, just
Mhm.
with all just taking care of them and all of that. And it's like, wait a minute, you're well educated, and just other things that I've had accomplished in my life. You're going to be able to master this as well, and also you're going to bring some of that with you and bring it into your parenthood. Like I was in marketing, and so one of my sons was diagnosed with developmental delays,
Mm.
and so my communication skills, my creativity, I created different types of learning tools to
Mhm.
help. That's where I got it from my work, creating all those PowerPoints and creating all of these decks and doing these other things. I was able to bring that home, and so we have God wastes nothing. So
Right.
everything that you have been through impacted you, it shaped you in some way, and just bring it along with you. And sure, yes, there are going to be some things that you don't know, you don't understand. It's a new experience, but your accomplishments show that you have the capacity to go get the information you need or learn what you need, get the tools you need to then be a good parent or be a good wife or whatever, caregiver for your parents or whatever.
Yeah, so important because nobody ever tells us to write down what you've done,
Mm-hmm.
right? And sometimes that just really helps. If you just get a piece of paper and pencil and write it down, you forget you've done stuff. I mean, even if I'm a good driver, I'm
Uh-huh.
71 years old. I've never gotten a ticket. I'm a good driver.
Wow.
Those things that are like, and so, and I could say that to my kids too, but I don't say it too loud because I don't want to get that first ticket, like nanny, nanny, boo, boo.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's perfect. That's a perfect example of we don't remind ourselves enough. And when you asked about the community,
Mm-hmm.
your friends will remind you
Mm-hmm.
what you've
Mm-hmm.
done, especially when you're feeling down, is remember when you wrote that book, or remember when you cared for that child or that mom
Mm-hmm.
or whatever, and you walk them through their Alzheimer's journey and so forth. There, it's amazing what we do. And I love that you said that because that's so important.
Hey, Mama, I get it. I remember those early days of motherhood, feeling totally outnumbered and out of my depth with my twin boys. Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems for My Journey is the book I wish I'd had back then. In my mini motherhood memoir, I share the real, unfiltered moments, from overwhelm to breakthroughs. Along the way, I discovered 7 guideposts that helped me find my footing, and I think they'll do the same for you. And guess what? I'm giving the book away free. Just head to mothersworkthebook.com to grab yours. Just pay shipping and handling, and also get your hands on some wonderful bonuses. You don't have to do this alone. Let's walk this journey together. That's mothersworkthebook.com. Can't wait for you to read it.
I also, when I'm working with moms, I also encourage them to do that for their children as well, because they too, they perseverate on that next thing they don't know how to do. They don't remember how hard it was to learn to ride a bike, say, for example. And how about walking, right? And so, you didn't fall down and decide, well, I'm not going to try that again. You got back up.
Yes, we were resilient little buggers, weren't we?
Right. And so just reminding them, hey, remember when you just knew how to add and subtract.
Mhm.
Now you know how to multiply and divide or whatever. But that's what I find I definitely saw it, even in my own children. Once they learned how to do something, they had their eye on the next thing, like, but I don't know how to do that. And I'm like, well, don't forget what you have in your toolkit.
That, right?
Yes.
That's advice. That's really wonderful. And
So, yeah.
so
Now, in your community, how do you help moms like overcome pressures about what they should be, who they should be, and how they can just break free of those constraints in their lives?
oh man, Carol, that's such a huge and important question because we all do that. That's our default. We're
Hmm.
we're so used to putting other people first and other people's needs first. And
Hmm.
so it's like we listen to the opinions of others, and it's always, oh gosh, so impactful to me how we listen to people who are less secure than we are
Yes.
criticize us, and then we feel bad.
Hmm.
It's like we need to do more of what we were just talking about,
Hmm.
reminding yourself, because
Hmm.
you are, we're going to do kid stuff. You are the boss of you. You know,
Okay.
you, you are the most impactful voice you will ever hear. So
Hmm.
when you had suggested the importance of affirmations and then writing down things you've accomplished, those important things, looking into the mirror and saying to yourself, you are an amazing woman and you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. We have to drown out those voices by knowing that everybody's on a journey. There,
Hmm.
just speaking from their own experience. Their own experience is no better, bigger, broader than you. It's just different. And so
Right.
that's their perspective. And people react to things that aren't like what they think, or aren't like what they do, or aren't like what they
Mm-hmm.
believe, or even aren't like what they vote for.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is we're all different and we can all learn from one another, but don't ever let
Mm-hmm.
somebody criticize you and you take that to heart,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, yeah, if somebody says something like, "Oh, your meeting the other day, I sure wish you would have done this differently." I can go, "Huh, is there something I should have done differently? Do I agree with that?" And if I don't, it's like,
Exactly.
because people just criticize
Mm-hmm.
because they don't want to look at themselves.
I
And so
agree.
people are going to criticize these young moms, and what, you have your kids in so many sports that's just not good for them, where you can go down the block and somebody will say to you, "You don't have your kids in any sports? That's so abusive of you."
Right,
And
right. Mm-hmm.
then somebody else the block down there's, "Your kids don't take piano lessons and a language?"
Right.
It's like, what do you want? What would you love? That's the
Right.
question I would love to see moms ask themselves every day. What would you love for your child? What
Mm-hmm.
would you love for you? What would you love for your family? Because somebody will find something to criticize you for, because that something is in them. I even notice that in myself. If I think, "Ugh, that person's annoying," uh,
Mm-hmm.
after I have that initial, "Ugh," I think, when have I said that? Or when do
Um,
I do that? Or
mm-hmm.
because we all have it all inside of us. The guy cuts
Exactly.
you off on Route 66. Well, he's an idiot. Well, instead of that, maybe he's in a hurry.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you could think when you did that before, because we all space out when we're driving and we
Mm-hmm.
all cut people off. And thank God we're not all dead from that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's, man, if I could just, and that's what I do in my coaching, is just principle after principle includes love yourself. Your voice is your final authority. No one else has an opinion more important. It could be equally important,
Mm-hmm.
but it's everybody's got their thing that they're insecure about. And
Mm-hmm.
all you have to know is that you are amazing. Remind yourself in what ways you're amazing, how smart you are, how beautiful you are. You're created perfect, and you're on your journey that only you can accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And by taking advice from people who are critical is really not helpful. That's as nice as I
Absolutely.
can say
And
that.
especially when you think about the fact that we all were created with purpose. And so the person that's looking at your life and criticizing and judging, they don't understand your purpose. And
That's
you can't live their purpose. You can't create your life to look like theirs, because that's not why you were brought
right.
here. And I think that we have to always remember our purpose in life, and like you talk about in Supernova Women, the lasting legacy that you want to leave. And so talk about that, about encouraging women to think about leaving a meaningful legacy that is right for them.
That's a great question, because I think it's so important that we do that for help our children start
Mm-hmm.
thinking that way too.
Mm-hmm.
So what your legacy is, who you are. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the size of your house. It's not, sure, there's money that you can give to your children in your will and all this stuff in there. But if you don't teach them the principles of how to acquire money in a healthy way, how to live a purposeful life, or teach the kids how important it is to help other people, to be grateful, make changes in the world that they see.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody might see the thing that you see in the world that needs to be changed. So you
Right.
might be the only one. That's related to what you were just saying, I think.
Yes.
The
Mm-hmm.
only one that knows about that need. Just the other day, I had an event where we gave prizes for around the world for women who have seen a change, seen a need, and made a change around the world to better women's health.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And one of them, she went to Nigeria. She was a doctor,
Mm-hmm.
and she noticed that they were delivering babies in the dark because in Africa, the one thing you can count on is that there's going to be flickering electricity. It's so she goes home and says to her husband, "We need to figure out a way
Mm-hmm.
to help the electricity." So they created a solar suitcase, which is kind of like a portable generator
Mm-hmm.
that's solar powered that
Right.
they can use to help babies be born in the light instead of trying to feel your way around doing a
Mm-hmm.
cesarean section, a C.
Right.
And so we teach our children to live that kind of life. If you
Mm-hmm.
see something that needs changed, do it. If
Mm-hmm.
you hear somebody that's being made fun of,
Mm-hmm.
step in and support them. If you hear somebody criticize you, let it, roll off your back like water off a duck's back
Mm-hmm.
because you're here to create your purpose. And one step at a time, it's
Mm-hmm.
it's the habits
Mm-hmm.
that create the legacy. It's
Mm-hmm.
the daily routine of love and growth and
Mm-hmm.
empowerment. That's what ultimately creates the legacy. It's baby steps. We think like we're not doing anything.
Right.
Baby steps got me up to Everest Base Camp.
Well, that was what I wanted to talk about as well. That is like an amazing achievement. How could you inspire mothers to chase their own dreams, even if they seem daunting? Like, I'm quite sure you probably never thought you'd do that.
You are correct. Never on my bucket list. But it went together with something I really believed in, and that's one of the organizations that I also gave an award to the other day, what World Hope International. We did that to raise money for the awareness of the need for clean water
Okay.
around the world. And so it had kind of a dual purpose. And so there are things, whether it's in the PTA or PTO at your school that you're making a difference in,
Mm-hmm.
or that you want to take a trip with some girlfriends,
Mm-hmm.
or just want to plan a good family vacation, or want to go back to school. My daughter just went back to school at 47, and
Mm-hmm.
she's also caring for her son who's recovering from a stroke, and she's working from home full time, and
Mm-hmm.
yet she found time to go back to school
That's
because she thought
wonderful.
that would help her in her job be
Mm-hmm.
more effective.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is always a way that you can do something for you and something to make a difference and something to change the world a little bit at a time. And
Yes.
everything works together to do that, whether it's a smile to
Mm-hmm.
somebody in the supermarket, or actually going back to school, or actually changing your job, or encouraging your kid to live their dream. Because that's what we all want, is for our
Mm-hmm.
kids to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
We can't make them happy. We have
Thank you for saying that. Yes.
we
Thank
have
you.
to teach them the skills
Yes.
to make themselves feel fulfilled and not just criticize them, but keep building them up in a genuine way.
Mm-hmm.
And not just, oh, you're a really good painter, but you
Right.
really made a wonderful mural on the
Mm-hmm.
wall.
Mm-hmm.
Now it was magic marker and it was the wall in the living room. So we'll have to change the location of that gifting, but
Right.
we always find things that they do well. And that is a huge legacy because then they will parent their kids in a similar manner.
Right. Now, there's something you said that I want to go back to in talking about how you can make a difference in the world.
Mhm.
little by little.
Yeah.
And just that idea. And the reason why I want to go back to that is because I know with the women you work with, by the time, say, starting at 50, by then they have already experienced a lot of transitions. It's marriage, parenthood, the sandwich generation, as you said, menopause for women.
Yep.
So all of these transitions that we go through, sometimes it limits or curtails some of the things we want to do. But how do we handle those transitions with grace and confidence, knowing that all of this is seasonal and that in the right moment, you will still be able to pursue your goals and pursue what your purpose really to make those changes in the world.
Yeah, because it does feel like in midlife, it seems like you're going through a transition every 15 minutes. And
Uh-huh.
it's like almost like a revolving door. It's like you're feeling dizzy,
Mm-hmm.
but because you're in so many transitions. But the fact of the matter is, if you have built up the concept
Mm-hmm.
that you are amazing, you are strong, you have these abilities, all the things you and I have been talking about for the last 30 minutes or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when you build that up, it's always okay to make a change if that's what you feel led to do. Whether you get fired or whether you are just discontent in
Mm-hmm.
your job and want to make a change, it's okay for you to want something. It's
Yes.
okay. You worked hard so your kids could go to school maybe, or you worked hard to keep your kids in a healthy diet and healthy lives and everything. But we just need to remember that we are the ones that can be this example for them. We
Mm-hmm.
spend, or at least maybe our parents might have spent all the time telling us, don't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this. If we spend our time encouraging our kids and motivating our kids, then we should be listening to ourselves,
Yes.
as it's okay if you lose your job, because
Mm-hmm.
it's remarkable how often when a change that you didn't anticipate or
Mm-hmm.
expect
Mm-hmm.
turns out to be the best thing that ever happened in your life. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
speaking to another woman this morning who was talking about that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of a sudden things didn't go right at her work, and that she'd been there for 30 some years in her office. And
Mm-hmm.
I need to get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she was scared. But the idea is it turned out to be the best move she ever made, to
Mm-hmm.
retire and then move on and become more of who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this age allows us to do, is finally you can be who you want, doing what you want, with whom you want.
Mm-hmm.
And don't let transitions scare you. Remind yourself you're amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you've done all these things before. You've accomplished this and this and this and this, and it never killed you, you know, and, and you'll be great. You're resourceful. We surround ourselves with people we know and love. And that's another reason why we have tribes and networks and friends.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know something, you know somebody who does know that thing. And you
Right.
just, tap into your network
Mm-hmm.
for
Mm-hmm.
roles and new opportunities, and you'll be surprised how easily you can find it.
Yes, and those networks are so critical at each of these transitions. A lot of times it puts you in the presence of new people. Like I think about when my children were younger, their friends' moms became my good friends.
Right.
And then at different stages, as maybe they went to high school or went to different schools, went to college, I didn't hang out with them as much because some new people. I mean, there are a few new people. I mean, you're always going to have your core, but there's some new people that come into your life and all of that. So just make the most of the people you're around that can pour into you and that you can pour into as well, and support each other on the journey.
That's right. Because we make our friends because there are kids, they're on the soccer team with, their kids are on, and then you get to be older and your kids go off to college, and then you maybe move to a new community or something, and all of a sudden you don't have the kids to save you and bring friends
Right.
into your lives. And so
Yes.
we moved to Tokyo just as my youngest son was going off to college. And it was like, and I wasn't really dependent on the friends' parents of his and so forth. But then I found myself kind of on my own and in the middle of a place I've never been in. And I thought I had to find women who actually had things in common with me as a human being.
And where you were at that stage in your life.
Yes. And it was a learning experience for me.
Definitely. Well, I thank you for spending this time with me today. I'd love for you to tell us how we can follow you.
Oh, I would love, my website is isn'tsheamazing.com. No apostrophe in the isn't she amazing, but it's just isn'tsheamazing.com. And if you go there, I would love to have you, just click on the join us link that gets you all my weekly newsletters and information that I'm doing. But it also has all the links to all my social media, and I'm on everything except TikTok. So
Me too. No TikTok.
well, I just I think it's learning one more thing, but yeah. So all my social media is there, and I would love to have you follow me wherever you are: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Yeah.
Sounds great.
I'm on LinkedIn.
Oh, yes, LinkedIn. Okay. Well, that sounds great. And as we wrap up this inspiring conversation, thank you so much, Mary Anne. I want all of our listeners to just remember that every journey is unique and every mother has a story to tell. And so you do have time to rediscover yourself and pursue your dreams in motherhood and beyond. And I want you all to know that I've been where you are, and I share my insights and reflections in my mini motherhood memoir, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. And you can grab a copy at mothersworkthebook.com. That's mothersworkthebook.com. And I hope you enjoyed our time together today. And please share what you learned with your family and friends. And be sure and like, share, and subscribe to the Parenting 411 podcast. Why? Because we are here for you, and it is never too late to be the parent you want to be. So thanks for tuning in, and I can't wait to see you all next time.
We bring you this episode for the purpose of information and entertainment only. It is not the intent or purpose of the Parenting 411 podcast or Carol Maletta to provide an exhaustive reference or guide on all aspects of parenting, childcare, and family life. You are strongly encouraged to read all available information, consult medical or other appropriate professionals, and pursue all reasonable means to learn as much as possible about parenting to complement what you gain here, and then tailor the information to meet your individual needs. Yes, parenting is a serious matter, though it is not an exact science. The context and insights offered in this and every episode represent an account of knowledge and personal experiences of the host and any featured guests for the viewers' and listeners' information and consideration. The host and guests do not guarantee to our viewers or listeners any specific parenting outcomes from this episode or taking actions described here.